lot of times the fuel line sections on these 30-year-old MR2s are really rusted out. So I like to just build my own fuel lines to replace them. This one coming from the fuel rail is kind of rusty, but it's not terrible, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So here's the process to do it. This is the full line from the fuel rail. And I'm using steel braided hose, 6 An. Here's the fitting that gets replaced out of the fuel rail. Here's the part number for that. Now we'll go see how to press on the ends to the steel braided An 6 line. I've marked the hose where I want to cut it. It's pretty much at 4 feet in length from the fuel rail to where it's going to meet the fuel filter. Here are the tools we're going to use, and I like to go ahead and prep the threads with a little lubrication. That was a lot of lubrication. We'll just let it drip off. The trick is to have really good cutters, and these are good quality, and they're just long enough. They're just stout enough to cut through this fairly easily. The challenge with working with the steel braided is that it frays pretty easily and it's hard to get into the fitting. So, see if I can do this one-handed. So easy to get poked with the shards. And you gotta kind of work it in. So this is tricky. You gotta tuck all the frayed parts in a circular motion, and just kind of twist it, and it will find its way and fit in cleanly. I had to kind of rotate this and make sure all the little strands got caught being laid down so as to go in straight into the fitting. The trick is to get it to go all the way to the inside and bottom out. That is not quite there, so I'm going to use 2 hands for that. There we go, now it's bottomed out all the way to the inside, and it's nice and cleanly pushed in. So now, and of course this wasn't actually held very tightly, but now we're going to secure this so we can thread the outside part of the fitting in. This needs to be clamped in pretty tightly, but not super tight. When this starts to thread in, or as you're threading it in, definitely want to have some pressure, the braided line in, so you don't push the braided line out as you're trying to thread this in. So a little bit of pressure this way with the hose, and thread it in by hand as far as possible. And then grab the crescent wrench, or an actual An fitting aluminum wrench would be even better, but a good quality crescent wrench doesn't mar it up, to tighten it the rest of the way. Again, always holding a little pressure into the fitting from the hose side, and tighten it until it pretty much bottoms out. And at that point, it's done. It doesn't need to be any tighter than that. Cool, so our new fuel line is done, with the exception that we need to install this fitting on the fuel filter end as well. And it's the exact same fitting. The fuel filter will also get one on the bottom of it, as we'll make another one of these lines to tie into the tank. And we'll do that a separate time. All right, I'm happy with that. Since the old one had this extra layer of insulation, I figured I would wrap the steel braided line with this insulating wrap, just to give it a little bit more heat protection maybe. But anyway, there it is. And we'll just wait to attach that later. All right, so the process of making any fuel line out of the and fittings is the same. Here's what I did to replace this particular line. So this is the fuel line that goes from pretty much the tank directly to the bottom of the fuel filter. In a lot of MR2s, because it's so low and kind of exposed, it gets super rusty. I think it's good to replace them. But anyway, this one is not in bad shape, but since I had the materials and I always like to make new ones of these, I went ahead and made another one. Here are the fittings that are needed. This fitting reproduces the end of this line. So this will just screw straight into the car. And then at that point, you're ready for the dash 6 and fitting, and which is what this is, just a straight connector into the braided line. I like to use these little clamps to just hold it up cleanly to the body. The next one is dash 6 and 90, and this particular fitting again, which we used on the fuel rail, same thing, and 6 on the bottom, and the 12 by 1.25 threading for the filter. The main trick is to keep the hose with some pressure into the fitting as it's being tightened. So that's that. It's a pretty easy job.